Okay, Steve Houlahan, welcome to County Properties U.S. News and Information Channel.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, sir.
Well, it's a great day in California because it's always a great day in California, isn't it? I heard.
Indeed, it is. It's another glorious day, and fall is in the air.
Well, thank God. I'm Arnie Levine. I'm the host of County Properties News and Information at countyproperties.us. And I am here with being blessed by technology. I'm in right at Wall Street. You recognize the building. And I'm interviewing all the way 3,000 miles away, which I just left San Diego 10 minutes ago. Actually, I'm in Tijuana. I just left Tijuana 10 minutes ago to go all the way to New York to talk to you. All right. So, given that, I wanted to talk to you about what are you up to lately, as if I didn't know.
Campaigning for Congress. We are going to turn California's 48th congressional district blue, and the plan is to unseat Darrell Issa and to elect Houlahan.
Okay. So, given that you said that, our audience right now that you're targeting, as you know, look, I'm interviewing you. I have campaign experience running for mayor. It doesn't qualify me for a lot because I'm not sitting in office right now. My voters didn't know who I was. I had no budget, had no experience. I ran at the last minute, and I got 1/3 of the vote against an incumbent. And the only way I got those votes was being on the air like you're going to be with this. You're going to be on all the major social networks, including local networks and YouTube channel. So, given that exposure is going to be there, how many days do we have before Election Day? I think 10 days.
We're at countdown at 9 days. It's
Oh,
very rapidly.
okay. So we got 9 days. Yesterday we had 10 days. That's why I kept thinking 10. But we can't wish for more days. What we need to do is take action right now. If I was a candidate, which I'm not, and full disclosure, we're friends. I support you, but I don't serve anybody, including any party, even though I was nominated and belonged to the Democratic Party. And that's how we became good friends, because you do belong to the same party, and we're in the East County Democratic clubs mutually and other clubs, and you are there not to serve the party necessarily. Tell me about that. I'm there to serve the people, but I wanted to hear and people to know what you're committed to, who you are real quick, because we got to get your message out.
Well, I'm running for Congress because I love this community. I love the land of California's 48th. I love the people, and I've lived here my entire life. I'm a registered nurse. I have been for over 25 years, and I have the background, the knowledge, and the pizzazz to go to Congress and do the right thing for all of my constituents.
Okay, understood. So from what I know about your voters, it's broken into a district, and your district overlapped my district, which had about 100,000 people, El Cajon, city El Cajon. Your district is much bigger. It's a bigger coverage. You represent more people, right?
Absolutely. The district is massive, and there's upwards of 750,000 people in California's 48th congressional district.
Okay. So, who are you trying to reach right now? There's no reason for you to go after Democrats if they're going to vote down the ticket. Now, they may not. They may just vote for pick and choose who they like. majority odds need to be in your favor to win this election. Do you agree? Or
Well, I would say we want to make sure that we do capture all those Democratic votes. We want to make sure that they do vote for the top of the ticket all the way down the ballot. We want to reach out to independents. We want to make sure that independents know that they have a place at the table as well. And we want to reach out to moderate and reasonable Republicans because their choices are very limited because the Republican Party has changed completely from the Republican Party that was part of my grandfather's and some of my other family members' support.
okay, now I'm going to ask the tough question. So your title in your job presently until you get your new job?
Well, I'm a registered nurse and I'm considered a senior specialist.
And how many people are you responsible for besides the patients?
Well, my team is large. It's upwards of 40 registered nurses.
Okay, we're going to edit this part out. Put on your glasses. The serious part. Okay, so now we're continuing to edit that out, the editors. Okay, so this is about numbers at this point. Now, the voters that sent in their mail-in ballots, that's done, right?
Many voters are voting by mail, but many will go to the polls on election day. And so we want to have a hard push all the way up to the day of the election.
Okay, so who are you after to get your vote? The odds need to be in your favor. You got 9 days. How are you going to get this done?
Well, we're gonna go out and we're gonna reach out to people. We have a grassroots organization that's vast. We have hundreds of volunteers knocking on doors and talking to people. We have down ballot candidates as well. I have been hitting the airwaves, radio, TV, and newspaper, and reaching out to all voters because I want to represent everybody.
All right, that's good. So you're hitting the streets, you're doing what you can. This is going to be the last big push. So now we're going to hit social media, news channels, all the top local news channels is what we need to hit. We don't need national news. We just need the local area to get your coverage for your constituents. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll be going on East County Magazine tomorrow. I was on the radio yesterday. And so that's what we do. When you're in the leadership position, you got to be a leader and you got to get out there every single day, organize the Democrat clubs, reach out through the airwaves and have those conversations with those Republicans and make sure that they know that you're there to represent them as well.
Okay. So people need to get to know you. Edit this out. Take off your glasses. We're getting personal. This needs to go like personal, professional. We're going back and forth. Okay. Remember, we're going to cut these down and use it different ways for sound bites, right? For the reels, stuff like that. So they could use the same part in the reels. Okay. So the numbers are there. So what's your choices? Who you're trying to get votes, right? Who will you get the votes from now with the strategy you're using? Who is your target?
Our target are obviously we're going to get all the Democrats. We're going to get the lion's share of the independents. And you know what else we're going to get? We're going to get all of those Republican women that want their rights back because after 50 years, their rights were ripped away from them when Roe was overturned. And so they're going to be also voting for me because I am the pro-choice candidate.
Okay, so let me ask you about that. So you have a big population, Republican and independents and undecided voters. That's your pool, right? Democrats, are they wishy-washy or they're pretty much, they're getting called up anyway by the go team. Democrats party has a go team. I even got called. I said, do you know who you're calling? And they said, no. I said, you're calling a candidate who ran 2 years ago. Thank you for calling. Keep calling. Don't talk to me. You got my vote. Okay, but like I said, I have no loyalty. This station is about reporting neutral, unbiased news. I know everybody out there doesn't know how real news works, but it's basically discussing factual information and no lying. And even with politicians has stretched the truth in the past. Now we have technology for fact checking on our own with our computer. We get to chat GPT and say, is this a fact? I've done it. And I watched the YouTube channel with Donald Trump. They did it with him. There was 20 points that they fact checked. This is with a whole YouTube channel. And I'm going to be doing other shows like this too, and different politicians. I know when you've told me stuff, I already know what you said is the truth. That's why I'm here talking to you, but I'm willing to talk to anybody. I'll talk to Republicans. I'll talk to people that stretch the truth, that lies, because when somebody doesn't tell the truth, they can't remember all the lies they said. So they get busted. But the truth is easy. It's documented. It's fact. There's no lying. It is what it is. So Donald Trump's one speech he made, there was 20 lies. They went through it. He told 3 of them were true and the 17 were lies. So his batting average was not so good. All right. So
Well, I'm
now,
a word, and my word is my bond.
that's right. So do you think people would rather vote for somebody that's a felon and a liar, and he's got the support of the Republican Party? All my friends are Republicans. I should be a Republican because as a realtor, the National Association of Realtors have a big lobby. We support the Republican Party. But Republicans are voting for Harris. The major hardcore conservative centrist Republicans are not voting within their own party. How do you feel about that?
That is a huge opportunity for me. And what's going to happen is they are going to not want to vote for people who have no integrity. And so when they vote for those with integrity, they're going to vote for Houlahan.
Okay, so listen, you're a nurse. You know psychology, right? You know it well.
Absolutely.
Okay, and you deal with life and death situations where you have to use that tool.
The nursing process.
So I call myself a bridge builder. You know, I build bridges. A lot of my donations that I got, a lot of my votes I got were not just from Democrats. The donations were from my friends that are Republicans that are wealthy. They were the ones, you know why they did it? They didn't do it because I was in the Democratic Party. They did it because they knew who I was. My commitment is to make a difference and serve the people. And otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I'd be spending my time with the people that are there to make a difference. But I am talking to you because you're the leader of the pack at it. Even other districts. There are people in Washington right now I'm ashamed of. I'm ashamed of because they're Jews like me and they don't support Israel. And I got a problem with that. And this is where the tough questioning comes. So you could put your glasses on and get tough with me. All right, editors, take that little snippet out. So I told you I was going to ask you a tough question. I'm not pulling any punches with you.
No need to.
Is this a Democratic country or is it a Republican country? Is it? I'm not talking about party. Is this a Democratic country the way it is built to the Constitution, or is it? It's a loaded question. Or is it a republic?
It's a representative republic, is what we are. This is direct democracy, if that's what your question is. No, we are not. That's why we have the Electoral College.
Right. So according to Congressman Raskin, who's got a show on YouTube with another co-host, he said he's not campaigning traditionally. he's doing lectures on the Constitution. I just learned something really valuable just the other day. He said Abraham Lincoln was a Republican. And what he did was he created the pathway to a true democracy so we could be a republic with a democratic constitution. I didn't know a lot about that.
Not only was he a Republican, he was the greatest Republican.
And I admire him today, and I expect that. I'm ready to join the Republican Party just to resurrect it back to Abraham Lincoln days. A lot of Republicans and Democrats would, do we want a party running against us that's going to fight us to lose our democracy? And this is a question to you. Or do we want to be able to build each other up? When you're in Congress, how are you going to do that when half of the Congress are people that are voting the opposite of what you think and believe? How are you going to do that?
Well, you know, what we have to remember is we are all Americans. And so when we have that uniting principle, we can do anything. And so we have to find common ground. And so we have to progress. Sometimes we progress a little bit to the left, and sometimes we progress a little bit to the right. But we have to make sure that we never go backwards.
Okay, so what I see, and I'm a lot older than you. I'm 71. How old are you?
51.
Jeez, I remember I was 51 just the other day. Okay, so in my day, Walter Cronkite, you probably were little, but you probably saw him. When he got on the news, it was the news. You could count on it. And then they had 60 Minutes with Rooney, and he was an editorial comedian. You knew what he was talking about was all opinion. Now everything is all opinion. What I see a lot of politicians do, and I believe a lot of people see, is they talk to get power, to get elected, but they don't walk the walk. They don't produce. How are you going to change that in Congress? Why should me as a voter, even right now, I could still change my vote. If I see somebody I like better, I don't, running against you, I'm in your district. If I saw somebody running better than you, I'm going to vote for them. So what are you going to do when you get elected to Congress to be able to wake up half of Congress, half the House, to stop the nonsense and get to work? Because you're not passing bills. And when I say you, the Democratic Party is not doing their job like Joe Biden used to do when he was younger. He would reach across the aisle. Now he's just playing peekaboo in defense, like in a boxing match, you know, like this. I don't want somebody like that. I want somebody aggressive. Don't give me a smiley face. Give me what you got in action. And I'm speaking, for those undecided voters. So how are you going to reach across the aisle without taking an AK-47 out, which is some of the nonsense rhetoric that goes around? How are you going to be a centrist that's going to reach across the aisle like Biden used to do?
I walk the walk and I talk the talk. And that's how it's done. I have a track record of getting things done. I have been for over a decade. I have done things in a bipartisan manner forever. And that is how things get done. You have to reach out to people. You have to meet them where they are. And that's what I do. I have the knowledge and the background to get things done. And that's why you want to send me, Stephene Houlahan, to Congress.
Okay, so what have you done for me lately? Give me a sample. We don't have to have the whole list. Give me an example of what you've done for the voters in this district.
Well, I'll tell you, the number one thing that I've done for the voters is stopping the Quail Brush power plant. And here's the reason that it's so important, because it increased the value of each and every person's home within this area. Because when you put a power plant right next to someone's home, it loses value. homes in this area are worth upwards of $800,000. And so if you were to say that a power plant being built next to your home decreases your value of your home by 3%, that's that is $25,000 that was put in your pocket by Houlahan.
Okay, so what position were you in government, and what was the name of that bill, and when did that take place, that example?
I did it as an activist prior to ever holding office. And that was done by going to the CEC, the CPUC, and going to every portion of government within San Diego County, uniting Republicans and Democrats, and making the argument and defeating a bad proposal, which also is good for the environment because we didn't need that infrastructure. And we saved money for the ratepayers. $1 billion for every single SDG&E person who has to pay for these infrastructures, these boondoggles. We saved the ratepayers $1 billion.
So doesn't it have an impact on health, a power plant next to homes?
Everyone's health is much improved because they can breathe fresh air instead of breathing in the emissions from a power plant. So it's absolutely imperative that we do the right thing for our health, our environment, and our pocketbook.
So what does that impact overall if you don't have I'm asking you off the cuff questions. You're not prepared for this interview. I told you, I'm not giving you notes. I'm just going to get in your business, and you're going to talk straight to the people that are ready to vote or undecided. How much do you think it cost if that power plant was there with the cost of health problems, with the price of health costs today? That would have impacted the community with cancer and all kinds of other things that power plants do to the environment.
Many millions of dollars, for the care of someone with cancer, lung cancer, could be upwards of $250,000. And not to mention the loss of productivity for that person if they meet an early demise. So absolutely, not only did we save the ratepayers upwards of $1 billion, but we also saved the community from those impacts on their health and the costs associated to it.
Okay, so given you said that, if I do a rough math estimate, you're talking about per person could be up to $1 million or $500,000 in care. Insurances go up, all that trickle effect. You're talking about billions for a plant in reality, numbers in reality.
Not to mention the risk of fire. We got to talk about fire because I know a lot of people cannot afford their homeowners insurance. And so by not investing in these boondoggles and bad fossil fuel infrastructure, it is better for the environment here in San Diego County. And out in the backcountry, the risk of fire is very high. And there's an insurance crisis right now. And that's leading to people being canceled. It's leading to insurance providers leaving the state of California. And I don't know about everybody who might be listening to this call, but when I got my homeowners insurance, it has already doubled, and I expect it will go higher yet again.
So as a real estate broker, I went to a seminar with the representative from the insurance commissioner, and we were there to figure out a solution or what we could do because we don't have control. And I'm very disappointed in our government for this reason. The insurance commissioner is elected, correct? We vote him in?
Absolutely.
Who has authority over that commissioner? Because I'm not happy with this. Not individually, I got a townhome insurance that tripled within 3 years. I'm talking about a house. When I sell people a house, half of the challenge is to find insurance they could afford. So if the insurance commissioner doesn't have a solution, federally is the only way to make it happen. States in California is it the highest insurance rates in the country? Is that true? from what I remember.
Florida has really high insurance rates as well. So
Well, hurricanes, yeah.
they have the hurricanes and we have the fires. They have the floods and we have the heat waves.
And as we speak right now, my assistant works in the Philippines. She got hit with a major typhoon. Her house is flooded. They ran out of food. I've given her money on bonuses when she needed help from time to time, but her bonuses are based on selling homes. And I'm glad to give her a nice bonus because their income is low. But when she told me her family is running out of food, yes, this is yesterday, because their system isn't this luxury we have. People,
Is not.
you know what I'm pissed off about? And I hope you're angry too. I'm tired of hearing how this country is not good. Look, I was in the 60s rebelling against Vietnam, rebelling against war, even though I was about to enter the Navy when I went to college and found out that Vietnam was a place where we were sending people like myself. I was 17 and I needed to be old enough to get into active duty. And I wanted to go in the Navy. My brother was in the Navy, he was in special ops. I wanted to be just like him. My mother had another idea about that. So she forced me into going to college, and I understood. And when I went to college, I learned that sometimes the government does things for the wrong reasons. And all the people died there, and soldiers didn't get respected and welcome home when they came back. I was very disappointed during that time because I was protesting that people wouldn't get killed. People like myself would not go to battle to protect the honor of this country, which is dishonored. How do you feel about that, being dishonored by our ex-president who's now running for office?
My grandfather served in Vietnam. Not only did he serve in Vietnam, he served in the Korean conflict and World War II. So I am deeply, deeply troubled by those actions of the former president, and deeply, deeply troubled by the actions of my opponent, Darrell Issa, especially when they went and desecrated Arlington National Cemetery for their campaigns and for political gain.
Take off your glasses because the light's interfering. So I didn't know that. 3 wars, that's pretty amazing. My father was in World War II. My brother served in the Navy during Vietnam, but they didn't go there. They were busy on spy ships. We're allowed to talk about it. I think he couldn't talk about it for 40 years. You remember the Pueblo got captured by North Korea? Yeah.
I wasn't born by that time, but yeah, I read about it.
There were 12 of those were spy ships. There were 12 of them. I was old enough. I was in college at that time, and I was scared for my brother. And they were upset because the U.S. was like in a very awkward position because they had to diplomatically get the sailors alive back. They didn't care about the ship, and they didn't care about the equipment. Matter of fact, my other good friend was on the Pueblo with, not the Pueblo, the Valdez with my brother. He got out early, so he wasn't part of that. Either was my brother. He was out in sea following Russian trawlers, or they were following him, analyzing them and reporting back. But when that ship got caught, they couldn't do anything. And that's what's happening with right now. That's what's happening with a lot of things I'm seeing in the government is democracy could fall from the wrong person being in charge. Democracy can fall because of Congress not working together. The Senate is working, but is dependent on what the Congress and the president does. And I'm frustrated. I'm talking to you as a voter. I know I'm supposed to be neutral, but this is my little editorial part. I'm neutral on getting to the truth, but I'm going to give my opinion is this is not acceptable. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, what I'm going to do is, first of all, we need to get out this election denier who didn't vote to certify the election in 2020. Because the one thing that we have to all agree upon is a peaceful transition of power. And that is what makes the United States the greatest nation in the world. Because a peaceful transition of power is the hallmark of our democracy. And unfortunately, my opponent, Darrell Issa, failed to his constitutional obligation to do that. So
In what way? In
yeah,
what way?
these people need to be gone.
How did he fail? Tell everybody.
Well, of course, when the election is over, it has to be certified. It has to be certified. The electors have to be certified. And Darrell Issa voted against that certification, especially in swing states. And so he made a terrible, terrible decision to go against our democracy and failed his constitutional obligation.
Okay, I'm a college student. Actually, I volunteered my first political move. I was 18 years old. My friends were going to Vietnam getting killed or coming back wounded. And the other friends were coming back getting, disgraced. When you join the military, just like you swore an oath in order just to campaign for Congress, the same as I did just to run for mayor. What was your oath? The key parts without repeating it.
The most important portion of the oath is to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America.
And did you feel the same way? I was in a county clerk's office and I said, I'm not elected. It's like, why am I doing this oath now? Did you remember when you first ran?
Absolutely. And it's an honor to have taken that oath, not only for running, but as a former elected city councilman. Absolutely, it's an honor to have taken that oath and to uphold the Constitution.
But I'm talking with your first experience. When you ran for city council, when you had to do the paperwork, because I was going to run this year, but Courtney is a great candidate. She was my assistant or acting campaign manager. She managed actually mayors throughout the country. And I thought she'd do the perfect job. So I stepped down. When you that was your first public office, right?
Indeed, it was.
So the day when you're in the county clerk's office filling out the paperwork, and then or bringing it back, and she says, now I'm going to swear you in. How did it feel? What were you thinking? That's what I'm asking. That moment.
I'm saying I felt honored. It makes it all real and worthwhile, because that's what it's all about. Like I said before, we are all Americans, and we want to make sure and do the best for this country. And unfortunately, there are bad players and bad actors in Congress that need to be removed. And that's the job of individuals like myself. We need to run against them. We need to show the truth, and we need to get them out of Congress.
So what the fudge, I didn't curse, what the fudge is going on when these people that are in office elected, like your opponent, what's his name?
Darrell Issa.
I keep forgetting his name. I wonder why.
He's very forgettable.
Right. So the idea is for us to have this conversation so people could talk at the water cooler or getting coffee at work. That's what we want to have happen in the next few days, because their life's going to change if you don't get to Congress. And there's not enough people, and Republicans like you. You know there are Republicans that have your same values. True?
I believe there are reasonable individuals on both sides of the aisle, and we need to come together. And we don't want people that are on the far left and the far right to dominate the conversation.
So what the chocolate is, you're going to get hungry when we're done. So why are both parties losing control of their own party for these small outlying groups? Wokeness needs to get removed from the English language instead of removing history. You can't rewrite the truth. You can't rewrite the history. What you could do is report the missing part of history. I just heard Bob Woodward talking about an interview he had from 3 years ago that he didn't report in the news because sometimes you don't find out the truth for a few years later. And it was a very valuable piece of information. The only problem is I forgot what he said, and it was just the other day, but it was very interesting. I'll get back to you on that. I'll research it and edit it into our video. But it was something that happened, an incident happened at that time. But now with fake news is a word I heard it first come from Trump. And they didn't call it that when we heard the actions of what that means. Do you know what the source of that word? It's a different word from what it used to be called. If I tell it to you, I'll give away the hint by just telling you the name. But I'll give you a hint. It was used during 1939, 38, all the way to 1945 during World War II.
Well, back then, during this McCarthyism and
that was 50s. That was 50s.
That was bad. And now we have this modern McCarthyism, this Trumpism, with misinformation, talking about the enemy within, and talking about poisoning the blood of our country. And these things come directly from Mein Kampf.
Mein Kampf. I was going to ask you that. What book is on Donald Trump's nightstand that sits next to him? I don't even know if he reads or not, but he's got it there like, God forbid me for saying this, but he's got it like a Bible, even though he's selling Bibles, which is a sin, by the way. It is against the Creator's word. I only follow the first Torah, even though I know the New Testament very well. But that is part of the New Testament is the Torah, the first testament. Is you cannot change words in the Word of God, and you can't be writing, and that's why the Gideon's Bible is free. They don't charge for it. They give it away. You can't exploit it for yourself because you're going against the word of your Creator. But when it comes to politics, with this one candidate, all rules are off the table. And I got a big road to go down about why the fudge is people getting away with things that is unconstitutional. I thought if you're a felon, I thought you couldn't run. You can. And Congress is not doing anything about that. And there's enough Democrats in Congress. In the Senate, we know. But in Congress, why can't they reach across the aisle, people like you, and get enough votes to be able to address a convicted 34-count felon? And he's got more going because they just approved the insurrection, which is election denial, which is what you were talking about. I want your gut. I want people to know how you really feel about it. You're calm. I know you have responsibilities at the hospital, but this is not the dress rehearsal where you practice your campaign. This is where you got to stand up against tyranny, literally. Or we're going to have a king running this country. Was the Constitution written for a king or against the king? That's the first question.
One of the greatest presidents, George Washington, had the opportunity. He could have been the king. And you know what? He chose not to. He chose not to. And every single president since George Washington has lived up to that peaceful transition of power, except one. And so during this election, we, the people, will rise up and wash away this individual, because sounder minds will prevail. And so I've been in the forefront of this movement, of this blue wave that has washed over San Diego and will be washing over the East County of San Diego. And we do not want a king. We do not want an emperor. And we do not want a demigod.
Well, what's the date of the election? November
5th. It's only
November 5th. So everybody's, I'm sorry, I spoke on top of you. Go ahead.
I said it's coming up very quickly.
Okay, so November 5th is the defining moment. If you haven't sent in your mail-in ballot because you're not sure, I want to be able to address some of the issues that we just talked about. But Stephen, I want the real Stephen to come out. I want your guttural boxing gloves on to tell the truth. This country needs people to start telling. Look, I don't know if I'll be around this year or next year. When I go to the doctor, all I have to do is do a CAT scan and said, Mr. Levine, unfortunately, you relapsed. I've heard that 3 times already. So I live as if there's no tomorrow. And you know what? Right now for you, there is no tomorrow. You don't get elected by November 5th. Is it 5th? You don't get elected by November 5th if you don't do what it takes, which is to inspire the non-committed voters, the ones that are young, that's saying, my vote doesn't count anyway. If you don't get that job done, then who will?
Your vote is your power. Every vote matters. Every single individual should exercise that right. Individuals like my grandfather fought in wars. My grandfather fought in 3 of those wars. So you could have that right to vote and to make the decision for your own future and the future of this nation. And so I am here to inspire you to take that step, to fill in that bubble, hopefully for Houlahan, and send in that ballot. There's still time. It is so important. We're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for women's rights, and we're fighting for the world, and we're fighting for a better future for all.
Okay, so how can people vote? What are the methods that they could vote? Because now it's getting down a week and a half away, technically a week and a few days away. What's the easiest way to do it if they got a busy schedule? What do you suggest?
Well, the easiest way is to look at your mail-in ballot, fill it out, put it within the envelope, and lick that envelope and stick it in the mailbox. If you feel like the mail is not the best way for you, you can drive it down to the registrar and you can drop it off yourself at a drop box outside the registrar, or you can walk it in. And if you don't trust mail ballots, you can actually go down in person now and you can fill out your ballot at early voting centers. And that is, all of those are equally good. But the most important thing is vote. And some people want to wait until the day of the election. They want to feel that they want to feel that election day excitement and go vote on election day. But the one thing I advise you don't do is don't wait till after the election and then regret having not voted.
Why are you saying that? Why would one have regrets from not voting?
Because it may not turn out the way you would like.
Okay, let's talk
vote.
Let's talk about I'm busy, a Mr. Voter out there, or Mrs. Voter, or Miss Voter. and I'm out there and I just get caught up in stuff. I have my mail-in ballot sitting right there. Okay, I've got my list. All I have to do is just circle, color in the boxes with a pencil or a pen, and then stick it in the mail, and I'm done. Right? What's there is another benefit to doing early mail-in ballots. That is that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party will stop calling you, texting you. It's annoying because it's actually saves the party from spending money and dialing and having the volunteers focus. They only call people that haven't voted. So if you vote now, you won't get those calls. You won't get flyers. You won't get anything. Is that true?
Lord knows I get a lot of calls, I get a lot of emails, and I get a lot of flyers. But absolutely, I've already voted, and so I look forward to making sure that my vote is counted, that it is made known that Stephene Houlahan has already turned in his ballot, and then those text messages, those phone calls, those emails, and all that postage coming in the mail will stop.
Okay, so that's the benefit of early mail-in voting.
One of many.
Okay, so we're going to take a pause for a second to go to our sponsor, which is countyproperties.us. And this is countyproperties.us news and information channel. It's on YouTube. Just look at the branding underneath and it'll give you information about where to go. Don't forget to subscribe. And I will be